Hello everyone, I'm Gabriella and welcome to my channel Per La Victoire. I just wanted to start out this video and this year by thanking you all for all of your support on my YouTube channel. I enjoy reading every comment. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing and watching my videos. I started this channel last year with the intention of sharing my knowledge and experience with historical sewing. I've been sewing historical clothing for about 10 years. I'm self-taught and I've learned a lot of hard lessons throughout the way. And I wanted to share my experiences and process with you. And it is so rewarding and validating to see that you are appreciating and enjoying the content that I put out there. So thank you so much for your support. I have a lot of fun videos and projects coming up this year, and I'm very excited for you all to join me on this journey. So, unfinished sewing projects. I'd be happy to admit that I have dozens of unfinished sewing projects. It's quite popular for sewists to document a list of completed projects from the past year, but I would like to show you all of the uncompleted projects from my past year, all the things I started but didn't finish, because I think it's very important to look at what we didn't finish and why, and learn some lessons from that. I want to reduce the stigma around needing to complete X amount of projects per year. I feel like with the advance of social media, there's this pressure for creators to churn out art and content all the time, and frankly that's just not sustainable. Additionally, I sew because I enjoy the process. I love making those little hand stitches. I take my time cutting out the fabric. I don't like being in a rush, and any time in the past where I've sewn something in a rush, I didn't enjoy it. I felt resentment. I didn't like the final garment. But when I've taken months and sometimes years to finish a piece, I come out with a garment that I wear dozens of times, that I feel super confident and happy in. And I think that confidence comes through when I wear the garment. I feel like I'm glowing when I've taken my time with a project that I've designed and worked on deliberately and slowly. For me, sewing isn't just about having the finished garment. It's also about all of the things that I learn along the way. Whether it's refining a technique, learning a new skill, working with a new fabric, I enjoy expanding my repertoire of the things that I do in my sewing space. And why would I give myself the stress of trying to finish a project by an arbitrary deadline? I'm not a historical reenactor. I'm not paid to wear my clothes in any educational or entertainment context. And in normal circumstances, most of the time I just dress up to have dinner with friends or a picnic in the park, so it doesn't matter if I have a new garment or a perfectly historically accurate garment each time. If I don't finish the new dress I was working on, I will wear my outfit from last year and I will still enjoy myself all the same because I put a lot of love and care into that outfit from last year. I try to give myself a really long lead time for projects because I don't want to put the pressure on myself to complete something in a short time window. And this is why sometimes you won't see a ton of sewing content on my channel. It doesn't mean that I'm not sewing, it just means that it takes me weeks and sometimes months to make something because I'm taking my time. I don't want to rush through. I want to create something that I'm really proud of and I want to enjoy the process. I think that's something that we really miss when we see content creators releasing art on a very regular basis. It creates this illusion that it's easy and sustainable and replicable to constantly have new art out there, but I don't think it is, especially for something like sewing, and especially for historical sewing, where there are so many hand-sewn details and very fine handwork involved. You can't really rush that. You can only hand sew so fast. Some techniques can't be done on a machine or can't easily be done on a machine. Like cartridge pleating, for instance, can only be done by hand, and when you're making a 1840s dress that has 4 yards of fabric in the skirt that needs to be cartridge pleated, that's going to take a long time, and that's okay. You don't need to set all this pressure on yourself to complete things by these arbitrary deadlines or even for an event. It's perfectly fine to wear something you already have or to put some old pieces together in a new way. In fact, that's some of the most fun I've had is when I've taken a petticoat that I've worn before but mixed it together with a jacket that I've never worn with that petticoat, and I feel like I have a whole new outfit and it's just so much fun. So let's get started and let me show you all the things that I started in 2020 that I didn't finish sewing. If you recall from my sewing space organization video, you know that I store all my in-progress projects in these little baggies so that I can keep all my pieces together. The first thing that I started but didn't finish in 2020 is this really exciting Victorian corset. I remember I had the idea to make myself a new corset because my old one, which was the first corset I'd ever made ever, had turned out a bit too small on me, and I haven't gotten smaller since I made it. So it was time for a new one, and I had a different corset pattern that I wanted to try. I remember that I stayed up until 2 a.m. working on the mock-up because I was just so excited, and then progress just slowed down. I just didn't feel like rushing it. I worked on it on and off throughout the year. For instance, one weekend I went in and started putting in some boning channels. A few weeks later, I went in and I added the busk. I certainly do need a better fitting corset, and especially a neutral color like this, because my old pink corset shows through my cream Victorian ball gown. But I didn't feel any pressure to finish it within a few weeks because I could always just wear my old corset if necessary. And I did wear my old corset for a lot of my historical cooking videos and when I was just getting dressed up in my apartment for fun throughout the year. I would love to finish this in 2021. In fact, there's very little left to finish on this corset. I just need to add grommets along the back panel. I also need to add a few boning channels and pieces of boning. I'd like to add some flossing to the boning channels and adding binding along the top of the corset. And actually, binding corsets and stays is one of my favorite sewing techniques. I love the repetitive mechanical process of just sitting down and slip stitching binding for hours. Because I'm not putting the stress and pressure on myself to finish something within X amount of time, I can enjoy every stitch and just take it easy, pop in a movie, watch a couple episodes of something on Netflix, and the time just flies without the stress of like, oh my god, I have to stitch as fast as I can to get this done. This corset is made with the Simplicity 7215 pattern, which includes pieces for an extraordinarily full chemise and this gored corset, which is pretty special. I'd never used this pattern before for a corset, but it's pretty similar to the last gored corset I made. Let me know in the comments down below if you'd like to see a video this year of my review of this corset pattern and what the final corset looks like. If you follow me on Instagram, this next project might look quite familiar. In October, I started an 18th century riding habit jacket, which is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. And in fact, this iteration of the riding habit jacket was supposed to just be a wearable mock-up because I want to make a few different styles of riding habits, and I just wanted to try out this pattern and see what it would be like in honestly a less than stellar wool fabric. I didn't mind sacrificing this kind of rough wool for a wearable mock-up. Right now this jacket looks like a shapeless mess, and that's because the lining is only partly sewn and it's also not on a human body, but I love the design. I used some military inspired application of velvet ribbon. And there's also a matching black velvet collar and black velvet cuffs. I am working on a video for this jacket, so hopefully in the coming months, while it's still wintertime here in the Northeast, I will have this jacket finished. I really love how it's turning out. I just made a big oops when it came time to lining the sleeves. This wool is already pretty thick and textured. I bought it when I had just started sewing. I was in high school. I bought it off of a Facebook group. I knew that wool was a historically accurate fabric, but I didn't know what kind of wool to get. So when I just saw a post that said wool for sale, I bought like a dozen yards of this, and it just has to me it's unpleasant. I don't like scratchy wools like this. It's just kind of textured and scratchy, but it's a good thing for a jacket because it's not like touching my skin and my body's totally covered, so I won't like accidentally rub my forearm against the jacket. My forearm will also be covered in the jacket. Anywho, when I came to lining the sleeves of the jacket, I picked a pretty heavy linen scrap in my stash. I had saved that heavy linen scrap to make another pair of 18th century stays, and I thought I was being quite clever by using it to line the sleeves because it would be quite warm. However, The linen was so stiff. Again, just because something is linen or wool doesn't mean it's perfect for your project, and that was a really important lesson for me to learn again. When I added the linen lining to the sleeves were so stiff and so uncomfortable. I just had all this fabric bunched around my arm and I could not take it. So I ripped the lining for the sleeves out, I adjusted the sleeve fullness a little bit to be more comfortable, and I cut out a new sleeve lining in silk, this kind of cheap thin silk that the skirt of the jacket is lined with, and I'm in the process of attaching this. So there's really not left to finish this jacket except for finishing stitching the braid on the front, adding the lining to the front skirt part, and adding the lining to the sleeves. Oh, and some hooks and eyes down the front too. But I know that when I finish it, I'm gonna get so much use out of this jacket. In fact, I'd love to wear it with a modern pair of jeans or with a long black skirt and wear that on my way to the grocery store because that's the only place I go to these days. I put a lot of effort into the design, and I think the design really reflects my personal style, this kind of muted jewel tone pink, and the black My Chemical Romance-esque trim is just really doing a lot for me. So I want to take my time with this. I want to make something that I feel really proud of, that I'm going to wear over and over again, and this is probably going to replace my modern winter coat for a few uses because it's so warm and comfy. Lastly, I started this project in December. It's Butterick 5136. It's a 1940s evening gown, and I am working on a video showing how I made this dress. The instructions say it's an easy pattern, and it's easy because they cut corners. It's an unlined, unboned bodice that's held up by 3 ribbons on one shoulder, and all of that is meant to support a floor-length train skirt. Yes, I could just make the dress by the instructions on the packet and it could be an easy evening gown that I have done in a few weekends. But if I'm going through the effort of making an evening dress out of fabrics that I love, which by the way, this is made of a gorgeous blue polyester fabric. There, no shame. I love the color, I love the texture, and I'm gonna wear this dress for like every formal event for the next 10 years probably. I wanted to take my time with this dress and make it look like a designer garment that you'd buy at a high-end department store. So I'm flatlining and boning the bodice. I'm finishing up the edge of the bodice with bias binding. I'm beading the straps. I'm hand sewing binding to every edge of the skirt, hand sewing the hem, and all that takes time, and that's okay. But I know that when this dress is finished, I'm just going to feel so happy and so confident. I think it's really important to give yourself the grace to create, to take time to create. When you take away the pressure of trying to do things within a time limit, I think you open up your mind to be more creative, or at least in my case, I feel more creative and I feel more connected to the project. I think it's very important for us as creators to realize that starting something is just as valid as finishing something. Starting something means that you had a great idea that you fell in love with and you felt passionate about. It means that you took the initiative to put the right elements together to bring your vision to life. And isn't that amazing in and of itself? Who cares how long it takes to finish something? The important thing is that you're doing it. Enjoy the process. Enjoy creating your art. Enjoy making something that you put on your body that tells the world what you enjoy and what you're all about. That's so exciting. When I look at my boxes and drawers filled with unfinished projects, what really strikes me are all the lessons that I learned with those projects. Lessons about fabrics and techniques and style. And I don't regret any of them. I might not finish all of those unfinished projects, and that's okay. I will definitely finish them in the future at some point, but there's no rush on it. Maybe I had a great idea one weekend and I started something in that excited rush of a new project, and then something else excited me, so I started something else, and then I had an idea, I saw a painting that inspired me to do something else. That's wonderful. Why are we shaming this and making it seem like people need to create a masterpiece every week? Starting those masterpieces is just as special. I recommend that if you look at the unfinished sewing pile with dread, Think about each of the garments or projects that are in that pile and think about what is holding you back from finishing them. I know that there's garments that I started and I feel like my knowledge has succeeded past the point it was when I started that project, or I realized that the fabric I picked just isn't appropriate, but I could still take that piece apart and use it as a mock-up or a lining for the next iteration of it that's even better. So I can use all of the knowledge that I got from starting that project to make version 2.0 something I am so proud of and happy to wear. So next time you find yourself stressing out about trying to finish a project in time, think about why you're doing that project or why you're in that hobby in the first place. Whenever I'm feeling stressed about finishing something, I remind myself that I sew because I genuinely enjoy sewing. I like the technical and the design aspect of it. Why not enjoy the process and enjoy every step and remove the layer of completion stress from the equation? Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave a like and comment down below with what is your most favorite and least favorite unfinished project, and let me know if there's any lessons that you've learned from your unfinished projects. Thank you so much for watching.